Peculiar Gaming facing up against GamingGear, with Peculiar taking the first game extremely confidently. I am Pulse, and I am joined by Metas. How's it going?
It's going wonderful. How are you doing, Pulsey?
It's Pulsey, fantastic.
I know,
Interesting
right?
fact about my name is every female I come across calls me Pulsey. So what does that say about you?
Well,
Anyway,
I've got man boobs, so I'm halfway there.
outstanding. So now jumping into the champion select, we have a couple bands coming out, which will be Elise, Kha'Zix, Renekton, and Shen. Take me through some of those.
There's not really too much to say. They're very, very standard bans. Pretty highly contested in both solo queue and the competitive scene. I can see Zed there as well, just being banned out. Lots of assassins, obviously Kha'Zix and Zed in mid lane can pose so much of a threat. Elise can be pretty much played anywhere, Pulse. We've seen her in support, top, jungle, mid, everything. And finally, you are going to have Jace banned out. Important to note as well, if you have just joined us, that game number 1 was a landslide victory, Pulse. It was not even close. I don't think that Peculiar Gaming lost a single death in that entire game.
Yes, definitely. They took it extremely confidently, and they may even run with the same sort of composition. However, the first pick will be Garen. I'm wondering if that's maybe a placeholder, because we haven't really seen Garen in competitive play for quite a while. You did see a resurgence near to the beginning of Season 3 because of the way Resistance has worked, but now maybe not so much. Could be interesting. Generally, could be a counter pick to Riven. Works really well in that matchup, but as a first pick seems kind of interesting. But we will see as the rest of the picks come out what this turns out to be.
Yeah, it is an incredibly interesting pick. Obviously, if he's planning on counter-picking Riven, then picking it first is... well, it's blowing my mind, to put it bluntly, Pulse. Diana and Zach have also been locked in, and it looks like you are going to have Varus being contemplated about. So, Varus, at the moment, I would say, Pulse, is top 3 picks for AD carry. He seems to be in almost every single game that we've casted over the kind of near future. Like he's just in every single game. You've seen him time and time again at LCS as well. Seems that they're trying to change their opinion here, maybe hovering over the Hecarim pick, but we're just gonna have to wait and see what they're gonna lock in.
Yeah, definitely. Varus is a very strong pick at the moment, along with like Misfortune and Caitlyn as some of the common ones, and he basically deals a lot of damage, and that would be a placeholder for Fresh, that Garen. Because Fresh was not banned out, so that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Kind of unfortunate that we didn't see the Garen, but these things happen. So now I'm waiting for the picks coming out from Purple Team, and yeah, so Diana is going to try and get onto that Varus, and maybe, yeah, of course they have Fresh. It's Fresh Varus lane, so they will have a good front line to keep them away from that Diana.
Yeah, I mean, seen Thresh banned time and time and time again for good reason. He is one of the top supports out there right now. Thresh Varus is incredibly potent bot lane, level 6 to box and Chain of Corruption, insane amounts of damage and CC, and it's going to set up ganks very nicely from Hecarim. Hecarim can just fly on in there with his ultimate. It's going to be very, very scary, so it makes a lot more sense than the Garen pick. You can have Janna and Caitlyn going off against the Varus and Thresh. Again, makes a lot of sense. The Monsoon from Janna is going to be able to reset the fight and just push away any danger.
Yeah, Janna against Fresh just means when he hits a death sentence, he tries to pull himself in. Janna can, use a nice timed Howling Gale, push him out of the way of that. And also, Caitlyn will be able to bully back Varus, who brings a lot of presence into that lane, especially with Fresh. So, yeah, they're definitely maybe looking to increase their laning phase down there, especially Diana, strong in that laning phase as well. Maybe looking for that top laner, perhaps to be, Renekton's being banned out, or maybe another strong top laner. Teemo potentially being contemplated from Blue Team, which would be interesting to see. I'm guessing GamingGear, anything's possible, but I don't think Teemo's definitely in the realms of viability in competitive play right now.
Well, I would probably need to go outside for a few moments if they lock in the Teemo and Yi. That would be quite confusing to say the least. They have switched over though. It looks like it could be the Orianna and Kennen, so the amount of CC right now is quite ridiculous.
Yeah, so they have massive initiation, they have the Hecarim, and then probably putting the Orianne ultimate on top of it as well. I think they had the same matchup last game, didn't really work out for them. Maybe trying this one again, and then the Kennen to lay that on top as well. Great front line Tavares, and then Thresh is going to be there just peeling and being a general nuisance. But yeah, so I think they went with a very similar composition, so maybe they're just expecting that if they can play it better, they can come out with a better outcome. And with Janna, that AoE composition may slightly suffer with a well-placed Monsoon.
Looks like it could be a Malzahar locked in last. I'm expecting that to change. I can't see that being locked in. But as we said before, if you have just joined us and you've seen that Garen pick and you're all excited, unfortunately, sorry to be the party pooper, it's going to be Thresh. It's not going to be Garen. It's a placeholder pick, so of course we are going to have a remake of this lobby straight after the picks have been locked in, and the Jarvan will be switched over from Malzahar, and there you go, back into the lobby once again. So it's going to be the same picks and the same bans, with Garen being substituted in for Thresh.
Yeah, generally if a person doesn't have that champion, then they'll just go ahead and pick it so they can pick it in that order, and if they don't have it, they can just remake, because we're not using the tournament client, so everyone doesn't have all the champions, so we will just go ahead and remake. It won't take it just a second, and we'll probably just be rushing through it once again. So, another thing, as a caster, we should probably be, well, at least I should be writing down the picks, because I have a goldfish memory, and I've completely forgotten everything that just happened in the past 3 minutes.
Dude, my memory is, well, you know how horrific it is from casting together before. All I seem to remember right now is Varus. That's pretty much it.
Maybe.
Okay, and Orianna. And Thresh. There we go. That's like 3. I'm pretty proud of myself at the moment for just remembering 3, so... Fortunately, we're right back into the picks and bans again. It's not going to take a great deal of time before we are live into game number 2. Peculiar Gaming taking the first one extremely comfortably. I believe the end scoreline was something like 16-0 Pulse. It was very, very one-sided.
Yeah, hopefully they can turn it around this game with that AoE composition, which is the same as the first game, and maybe they can turn it around. But once again, we do have the same sort of composition again from Peculiar. They do have that Zac, which you saw paying dividends in the first game as well, with those huge range on that Elastic Slingshot, great initiation, plus the Ash Arrow as well. But they will be running Caitlyn this time round, so bit of less initiation, but they do have the Jarvan in there as well.
So, how can you see this game going, Pulse? Purely on the comps. Do you think that Peculiar Gaming are going to have the 1-2 combo here and just completely steamroll this game? Or can you see GamingGear coming back from the depths to take this into game number 3?
Well, yesterday we also saw a similar AoE composition that never really got to shine, because they could never really go for those team fights because the opposing team was always against them and just split pushing constantly. So they constantly split those team fights up, turn them into 1v2 skirmishes, that type of thing, and they were never able to get into that position where they could utilize their composition. Again, the same thing could happen here and in the first game as well. Even though they had that great AoE potential with Orianna farming exceptionally well, they could never really use it. So I'm just slightly skeptical of their composition once again, because you know, it could just be another carbon copy of the first game and Peculiar could take it once again, but we'll see how it turns out. I think a lot of it is definitely execution.
Oh, definitely. You can have the best plans in the world, but if you can't get the execution crisp, it doesn't matter whatsoever. We saw yesterday, as you actually mentioned before, I believe it was 80 Gaming. They had Malphite and Orianna, Hecarim, and a couple more huge CC devastating characters, and they just simply weren't able to execute the team fight a single time. They lost every Drake, their laning phase went poorly, and the opposition just basically steamrolled them, which was British tea time, if memory serves me correctly. So, again, it depends on the execution. We are now into delay, ladies and gents, so we're going to cut to a very quick commercial break, and rejoin us. It's going to be game number 2 here between Peculiar Gaming and GamingGear. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to week 2 of the EU West Challenger Series. This is currently week 2, game 2, and we are now in game with Peculiar Gaming, facing up against GamingGear. I am Pulse, and I'm joined by the Dashing Metas. How are you doing?
Dashing.
Dashing.
That's lovely. I've never been called Dashing before, Pulsey. We've already had this conversation. I realise that. But we have a pause, so let's just waffle on like we have no idea what's going on. Oh, unpause, brilliant. So yeah, it's going to be game number 2. If you have just joined us, welcome. Peculiar Gaming steamrolled the first matchup, so this is going to be all or nothing for GamingGear. They simply have to win this game, or they'll be out of the tournament. And we're going to have another pause, so... Pulse, any ideas what's happening? Because I have 0.
Not at all, but I do hope that we don't go 5 seconds and pause for the rest of the game. It would somewhat break up the action, but we are currently just kind of standing still.
Kind of awkward if there's a Baron fight, just pause every 5 seconds. It'd be quite difficult to suspend that kind of enthusiasm, but again, the game has been unpaused and we're going to get underway. On the red team is going to be Peculiar Gaming, and on the blue team, of course, will be GamingGear. So yes. I said before, Pulse, about the team comps. Very much a CC AoE centric comp here for GamingGear, but as we saw yesterday with AT Gaming, the execution is key. If they can't get those team fights where they want them, it doesn't matter how important and how incredible their ultimates are.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully they can turn this one around. They do have some nice picks coming out. They have a very, very strong bot lane if they can get those initiations down. However, Janna and, not Ash, that would be Caitlyn. Ash was last game. They should be able to delay some of that pressure from that bot lane. They may even go for a swap up like we saw yesterday, but I think they're just going to go for those conventional lanes. And we'll just really see how the players play this one out. As you said, it's all down to execution. So we don't have any invades happening just as of yet. Trap has gone down by Caitlyn in that tri-bush. And just some offensive wards going out as well for some vision. So it looks like the jungle's going for some pretty standard starts. Maybe a Luna going for that red as well. Maybe going for the red straight into that blue buff, and maybe ganking top.
Yep, so this is pretty much a standard opening. Not going to see any huge invades going in. 1 minute 30. 5 is now on the time. Double golems will be up very shortly. Varus and Thresh are waiting, and on the flip side, at the top lane, we are going to have the AD carry and support from Peculiar Gaming, Janna and Caitlyn, respectively, taking their double golems. So we are going to have a lane switch here. It's going to be Kennen facing off against the duo bot lane, and the other side is going to be Diana actually taking the bot lane. Interesting stuff there. Zach's going to be going mid.
Yes, they are swapping it up, and that means that the Caitlyn and the Janna won't be facing up against that bot lane. It means they're probably going to be looking to push in that top lane as fast as possible, and the other matchup probably would have been Diana and Kennen anyway. So Diana just pretty good against most ranged champions because of that Pale Cascade. She's able to pop that, keep herself in that lane, but in this case, it means that they'll be able to push that Kennen around and push him into that turret. So with Jarvan now taking that red buff, we had Janna helping him as well, which is really nice having him at that top lane, just able to supply that shield. And they are now actually invading the blue buff, maybe predicting that Hecarim's going to be there. He's going to turn the corner. I think they're aware of the fact Kennen has come down as well. Caitlyn's still in that lane farming, and they should be able to propel them away from this blue buff. Maybe engage as well. Amazing looking to be very aggressive with that red buff. Massive damage coming out as well with the Eye of the Storm. Flag and Drag goes down as well. More auto attacks coming out. Flash comes down. Another flash from Amazing. Looking to pick up this first blood before he falls as well to the turret. Mazarin now coming in from the mid as well. Onto Feliox. With Caitlyn now returning into this battle 2v2 right now with Zac coming in from behind, potentially putting him into a bad position. Luna picking up another kill onto Felix. Ignite goes down from Grolem, 8 onto Hecarim. Now moving on to Mazarin as well as he retreats to that turret. Piltover goes down, but I think that should be everything. And that was a 2-for-2 trade, and blue buff did not go down.
Yes, with the first blood going on to Amazing. So first blood is going to be for Peculiar Gaming on Jarvan. I can't help but feel, though, Pulse, that Orianna could have reacted a bit quicker there. It took her a good 5 to 10 seconds to move over towards blue buff, in which case they could have actually picked up first blood themselves. So maybe with quicker reactions, could have been a very different story. Either way, as you said, 2 for 2, and blue buff is still standing tall and proud. However, there is a ward in the bush here, so Amazing is coming back, possibly for round 2.
Yeah, definitely. Looking maybe to contest this once again. They're pretty certain that they haven't gone for it after that trade because no one was really up and Hecarim wasn't around really to take it. He will be taking it, or at least trying to take it once again. Hecarim around the corner and he knows he's there. He has the ward down. Janna also coming back, and this could be exactly what happened in the first engagement. MBS low coming down as well. Blue buff will be picked up and well smited by Amazing. Now looking to clear the camp as well for that timer. And Orianna, again, not really able to react, so that will put Hecarim behind slightly. Meanwhile, bottom, Deadly Brother and Inspiro putting down a lot of her. Death Sentence lands as well into the flay onto JWoww, taking lots of damage, forced back into that turret. And right now, because of all that aggression, that bot lane's probably doing a lot better, able to push down onto that turret a lot harder. And the Caitlyn and Janna lane, at least if nothing else, even though they've sacrificed the blue buff, there's less pressure in that lane for that Kennen.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You look at bot lane, already the tower is around 50% HP, whereas Kennen's tower has barely been scratched because Caitlyn and Janna have had to focus so much time on blue. Speaking of which, they're going to put some pain on towards the Kennen. Meanwhile, in mid, Zac flashing up red, dangerously close to going down. So, one to watch out for, perhaps. He does have his red buff, and Orianna is running a bit lower mana. Has just chugged through a mana pot, though, so it should be just fine. So, lots of action all across the map early on here, Pulse. Quite even as it stands. Only 400 gold in it.
Yeah, and it looks like this lane swap up might not go as well as Peculiar Gaming wanted it to, because Inspire and Deadly Brother pushing very, very hard. And really, it looked like Jarvan was trying to get some pressure onto that top. Obviously, they would be invading. They have 2 people up there. And obviously, when you have more than 2 people down at that bot lane, which is generally why you do it, it means you have more control over that Drake. By swapping them with him to that top lane, then you have more control over that blue buff. But it didn't quite turn out. And JWoww has been caught by the death sentence. Maybe a bait, though, for Jarvan as he wants to come in. But he will be stopped in his tracks. There's a nice back off from that bot lane. Will keep them safe.
Yeah, for a second I thought Jarvan was going to go ahead and engage in, instead being a bit more interested in making sure the bot tower did not fall for his team. So they obviously know that Jarvan is lurking around bot, now moving towards Drake, but there is a ward there. It's going to give him a lot of it in the mid. Meanwhile, though, hold that thought, Zac is going down. His Passive has been popped. Can Jarvan get there in the nick of time? The answer looks like a resounding no. Needs to be careful, actually, and Zac will actually go down as a result of that. Meanwhile, at bot lane, Varus and Thresh are starting to pick up the pace here on towards the tower, and Kennen has actually joined forces. Will they go in for an engage? Thresh goes down from Diana as the only 9 HP remaining on the tower itself. So close, and I think Thresh is going to be face palming a bit there as Diana picks up the kill.
Yeah, Thresh basically wanted to tank that turret as they could take down the turret and then engage on that 3 versus 2. However, the shield from Janna once again keeping it alive, still on 9 HP. That tower is still alive and kicking, and actually results in another kill as JWL popped forward, making sure that he was tagged, and that tower will still be standing. However, meanwhile, top lane, Caitlyn's just been pushing, and no one's been opposing her at all, and that will result in some damage onto that turret as well as Caitlyn free farming. In comparison to that Varus, so let's look at the farm right now, which is actually surprisingly similar. It's 56 to 61 despite her being in that 1 versus nothing lane. However, we do have Amazing now moving on to this Drake.
Yeah, indeed. And with Varus and Thresh at top lane, I don't think there's a great deal I can do about it. Maybe Hecarim's going to try something pretty spectacular for the Smite Steal. Not going to happen, though. Now in a bit of danger himself. Is going to be jumping in. He's not level 6, though, so the Onslaught of the Shadows not going to be coming in here. Diana is going to be engaging on towards Kennen, who lightning charges away, doing a lot of damage, actually, onto Diana. I'm going to be turning this one around, forcing the slingshot from Zac just to escape, and the flash from Janna as well. So very interesting stuff there. In the meantime, Amazing is going to blue pill away with very low HP. So even though it looked a bit precarious for Hecarim, they actually managed to secure a kill for their troubles.
Yeah, meanwhile top, a nice death sentence on to him. But yeah, that was a team fight that Peculiar Gaming really didn't want, but unfortunately Mazarin did not have that shockwave up, so he wasn't able to put that down on Hecarim, have him Onslaught of Shadows in because he wasn't yet 6. If they had been in a slightly better position, had they had those levels and it wasn't quite forced as fast from Peculiar Gaming, then he would have been in a much better position. They would have had those ultimates, had those cooldowns, and maybe that that team fight would have been a different story, despite just being the 1-0. So as I say, that was a 1-0 for the Drake. And it looks like the top lane will now be rotating for the Caitlyn and the Janna, just looking to keep that top turret alive. And the top lane is now the bot lane.
Indeed it is, and you have to say overall though, oh, hold on for a second here, Thresh is going very deep, the flay back and the box as well, forcing the flash away from Caitlyn. Nice corruption from the Varus there. Can they pick up the kill? The barrier has been popped. Here comes Ace in the hole, going to be blocked. Good guy Varus coming in, but here comes Jarvan from the side with the red buff. Also has the Cataclysm at his disposal if he so chooses. May not need to use it here. In fact, he's going to go in right at the end to try and secure the double kill. Death Sentence and the flash from Thresh. Nice play from him, but not being able to keep his AD carry alive, and that's going to be a very vulnerable top lane. Thresh simply can't do anything or he will drop down. However, Hecarim's en route.
Yeah, so they will now be pushing it down with 3 members. Luna looking to get in here as well, does have the ultimate, and they are looking to back off immediately as well. Inspiro is still sticking around just to keep them alive, and that tower will still be standing. So currently it is 1-0 for GamingGear, looking in a much better position than they were in the first game. Now, meanwhile, bottom JWL looking maybe to take down that turret. The turret is still at 100% HP, however, and MBS LoL should have no problems defending it, but JWL is in a dominating position. Meanwhile, top, we do have Alunia taking a lot of damage from Amazing, and those auto attacks will finish off, but Veliox somehow getting it with an auto attack. And meanwhile,
yes,
Kennen just died. Apologies.
Yeah, he just died from Diana, 1v1, so a bit of a head scratcher, but also important to note that Onslaught of Shadows was used. Jarvan is going to be going back in with the combo, not able to land too much onto Varus though, so the ultimate from Hecarim is going to be down for a while. The Ghost is also down, and not looking particularly good there. Globally, you have to say that GamingGear did just get a bit slapped around with both Kennen and Hecarim dying at bot and top respectively. This is going to allow Varus, however, with Caitlyn going back to get some farm and to push the tower and deny some of those creeps, so it's not all bad.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a game of pushing at the moment as JWL tries to get some more damage onto that bottom turret. Definitely wants that one to fall fairly shortly, or at least in time for the next Drake, because if you lose that bottom turret, then you're going to be losing a lot of presence you have to really run away and maybe engage into a team fight, because you don't have anywhere to run, especially with the middle tower as well. That gives you more presence over Baron and indeed Drake as well. So you will be looking to take that down fairly shortly, but Kennen should be able to stop that from happening. Kind of surprised that he died in a 1v1 scenario though. He was at full HP underneath that turret with ultimate, so Diana doing a lot of work in that bot lane.
Alrighty, so, actually, Ace in the Hole's going to be popped off just for a bit of harassment here from Caitlyn on towards Thresh. Kind of caught my eye there. Let's have a quick look at some of the items that have been built around. So for the AD carries, Caitlyn has picked up a BF sword, and Varus deciding to go for the Vampiric Scepter. Let's see how much gold he has. About 1,000. So Caitlyn definitely doing more damage as it stands right now. You are going to have Jarvan and Diana coming up towards top lane with Zac. So definitely looks as though there is going to be a heavy engage very, very shortly. The tower is dangerously low on health. Here we go. Diana going to be engaging in. Nice box there from Thresh. But you have to feel it's just going to delay the inevitable here. Cataclysm goes on as well. Could be able to pick up a kill here. Jarvan will be going down. But that was a 2-for-1 exchange and the tower on top of it. Very, very nice play there from Peculiar Gaming. And in the meantime, actually, Kennen did manage to pick up a tower, so somewhat of a reply, but still very, very nice coordination from Peculiar.
Yeah, very nice timing from Peculiar Gaming, and they knew that tower was going down, so they basically engaged, turning that into a basically 4 versus 2 scenario, and then to turn that into a 2v1. Well played GamingGear to reclaim one of those kills, but meanwhile in mid we do have Lunin also looking to put down some pressure, just trying to keep them away from that top lane and push them back into that inner turret. So we do have Zac just clearing that up right now, and now they're in a better shape.
So, if you have just joined us, it's game number 2. Peculiar Gaming won a landslide victory first time around, and they're in a dominating position right now. About 3k gold advantage in their favour. Drake is due up in about 30 or so seconds, so that's one to watch out for. It's going to be reflected in the case that Janna has just put down a pink ward to make sure they have somewhat of vision dominance. Meanwhile, Zac is going to be pushing out the mid lane. And wouldn't surprise me if you start to see Peculiar Gaming congregating around the Drake area. Meanwhile, Caitlyn is going to just stave off the onslaught from the creeps on the top tower and pick up some free farm. Also added a pickaxe, so likely going to be finishing off Infinity Edge first time around.
Yeah, this next time team fight will be quite interesting because we do have Peculiar Gaming slightly ahead, and a lot of that gold centralized on that Diana. Death Sentence lands onto Gorillum as well, and they will need to start centralizing to defend this mid turret. But for the next team fight, obviously the AoE composition might play dividends, and that's exactly what they want. It didn't quite work out for them in that first game, but maybe in this game they can land those ultimates on top of each other, get that Orianna ultimate onto a Lunir, and Deadly Brother can follow with the Chains of Corruption, and all those AoE ultimates can land on top of it. That's what they're really looking for in that enclosed environment. Now just some ward fighting happening in this river, amazing just around the corner as well, but Deadly Brother looking able to back up Inspiro. But meanwhile mid, another push from Grillum and Hima, and as you said, everyone now congregating around that Drake, and maybe looking for this next team fight to kick off.
Indeed, and there should be a flurry of action here, as you're going to have the engage on towards Drake from Peculiar Gaming. Pink ward paying out there, have cleared one of the wards. Every ultimate is up on the board. Who can execute this team fight better? The Death Sentence lands onto Jarvan. Probably not the ideal choice, but you are going to have the shockwave instantly afterwards. Kennen's ultimate does catch Caitlyn and Janna, splitting apart the defenses for Peculiar Gaming. So 1-for-1 exchange right now. Ace in the Hole goes on towards Kennen, going to be chasing after the likes of Zac. Can they turn this one round? Hecarim being forced to run away. Death Sentence onto Diana. Hecarim looks to be going down very, very soon. There we go, has been finished off. Meanwhile, in mid though, can Kennen escape? Ace in the Hole has been used, so he's not going to find himself sniped, but that was a 3-for-1 exchange, and Drake is still alive and kicking. So again, Peculiar Gaming get the upper hand.
Yeah, Peculiar Gaming got split up quite drastically from that cannon ultimate as it came in. They weren't able to quite get in range, but they were able to tank through most of it because the AoE ultimates weren't able to hit everyone as they split up that team, and they weren't able to catch up with the back line. Then when they re-engaged, they were all back together, and they were in a much better position, just being better in that scenario when all the ultimates were down, and after they were able to survive through that storm of AoE ultimates, then they were in a much better position and turning that, as you said, into a 3-and-1 exchange. And now Drake was just also picked up by Peculiar Gaming.
It's a carbon copy of last game as well, Pulse, because, you know, I looked at the AD stats. As an AD player myself, I'm always interested to see how it's going. And, you know, Caitlyn has not died. Last time around, it was a fairly rough game for Deadly Brother. He kept getting focused down very quickly, didn't have the greatest of protection. He's already died 3 times in this game to Caitlyn 0. So Caitlyn's been able to farm around the map, keeping the level advantage, and really being a thorn on the side of Varus. Actually 2 levels up on Varus right now. So it gives you indication of how far ahead she is with the extra stats that brings, looking very, very scary. Meanwhile, in mid, with the Oracles now on Feliox, it's just looking worse and worse. 6k gold difference after 16 minutes and 30. That's a fair chunk of change difference, Pulse. Like that's a pretty big margin.
Yeah, definitely. We are just looking really for GamingGear to land those ultimates on top of each other in a favourable scenario. They want maybe a jungle fight where they have everyone stacked up on top of each other and then land all those ultimates, because that's really what their team composition is revolving around currently. However, we just have Peculiar Gaming playing a really strong game in which they're just splitting up, keeping themselves away. Only really the tanks just taking the full brunt of those AoE ultimates and just keeping them in good stead. So right now they're just going to back off. They have no real need to go for that team fight right now. They're quite happy to just kind of back off, go for those 1v2, 1v1 engagement in those other lanes, and kind of just split up the fight all over the map. Because against an AoE composition, they're less strong when they're by themselves, and when you have strong duelists like Diana, like Jarvan, like Hema on Caitlyn, then it makes a lot of sense. Just kind of keep everything split up and keep the flow of the game kind of disparate.
And this reminds me very much of the game yesterday that we saw between British Tea Time and AT Gaming, where the heavy kind of engage in your face, up in your grill, AoE CC team wasn't able to pick up things. But actually, hold that thought for a second, Zach seems to have been caught out, but the slingshot I should say, will get him away from danger. And importantly, to add to that, Mazarin missed the shockwave. So that is going to give Peculiar Gaming a bit more confidence that the next time around in a team fight, they should have the upper hand. Shockwave is a huge difference. And actually, you could have Diana going down here as Kennen goes in, actually going to be taking him down very, very comfortably. Diana is a complete boss right now, looking for that second kill on towards Hecarim, who's going to be pushing away. Ace in the hole comes out, doing a lot of damage on towards Orianna. Let's Bounce comes in from Zac, who's all by his lonesome. Needs to be careful here. Box has been popped down from Thresh, taking lots of damage, and Zac's passive will actually come out. Nice death sentence as well. Has to be sent to Caitlyn, and the burst damage will take her down in a heartbeat. This has been a very strange team fight to watch. Zac is now up, resurrected like a T-1000, goes back in, takes down Thresh with Diana, and that was just back and forth. Balls. I'm kind of at a loss for words here.
Like a T-1000, yes indeed, and he's just back, picking up that bottom turret in a very great position, just zoning him away, knowing that even if he dropped, he was in a good position just to keep himself together and come back into that team fight. That was all started off with Diana. Meanwhile, bottom lane was ganked by Hecarim and Kennen. 2v1 scenario, she basically killed both of them. Hecarim would have fallen had he not backed off to that turret, and then the team fight just collapsed around them. And Diana is just so strong. That's a testament to how strong she is right now. Picking up the Abyssal Scepter, also got the Seeker's Arm Guard, so strong in both of those resistance stats, 6 and 1.
It's really scary because I honestly believe that Kennen and Hecarim entirely underestimated Diana's damage. They were like, oh, we got this free kill. Diana turns around and says, nope, and just pimp slaps Kennen away. Like, there's nothing he could have done in that situation. As you said, nearly turned it round into a 1v2. Very, very scary stuff there, and Diana's just getting stronger and stronger. 6 for 1, Abyssal Scepter, the Seeker's Arm Guard, just gone back to finish the Abyssal Scepter, and, sorry, the Zhonya's Hourglass, I should say, on top of the Abyssal Scepter. So, not only is she going to do loads of damage, but she has a Zhonya's Hourglass and Abyssal Scepter pre-20 minutes into this game. It's going to be so hard to take her down, and as soon as she pops out the Zhonya's Hourglass again, she's going to completely wreck face.
Definitely, she's just very, very difficult to deal with. Inspiro now moving around with that Oracle, looking to take down some of these wards and get some of that presence back on the map. But right now, the jungle is just infested with wards all over the place. All those aggressive wards going down from Peculiar Gaming. And the other thing with Diana is she's a great split pusher if she decides to go into that route. May even pick up the Nash's Tooth, but opting more for a burst damage build and also the team fight build as well, because her passive Moonsilver Blade will proc on towers, so she'll be able to take that down very quickly, but she doesn't have the teleport at the moment. Her Actually didn't take that as a summoner, so maybe looking to move around Baron right now. It's 20 minutes into the game, but they do want a team fight. They know they're stronger. However, in that enclosed scenario, and if they get caught, their pants down, then the AoE composition from, however, Inspiro has been initiated on Ace in the Hole goes down onto Box goes down as well. Also the Cataclysm onto MBF, popping the defensive ultimate to keep himself alive. 3 versus 1 though, Grolem looking to keep back that backline as his team now comes back in for the reinitiation, and Flag and Drag comes down once again. Elastic Slingshot all the way onto Lunis, surely going to fall to Mazarin as Death Sentence does land, just keeping Jarvan away from Mazarin as he looks to put down some more hurt. However, the flash into the Flag and Drag once again onto Lunir, looking to be able to kill. Onslaught comes down onto Amazing. However, maybe in a bad position. Deadly Buddha taking some down, huge damage. Crits coming out as well, and the Feliox somehow picking up another kill. 3 and 1 and 8.
That was very interesting. I was watching it and I was thinking, is Hecarim going to ultimate or is he just going to die without using it? And right at the very end, when he had literally 5% HP remaining, he ultimates onto, in fact, hold that thought for a second, thought Varus was going to go down from Diana, but he waited right till the end to ultimate Jarvan. And you have to feel like, had he have just went right down the middle, could he have saved some of his teammates? Could he have potentially turned it around and got a couple of kills? Not entirely sure. But normally, Pulse, I don't know if you'd agree with this, you really want your Hecarim to be using his ultimate in an offensive kind of situation, not necessarily as a defensive situation. So there was a kind of a head scratcher there. The fact that Thresh was completely caught out in the middle of no man's land, was nearly burst down in a heartbeat, was forced to use the box and flash away, definitely hindered the team fight as well. But there's Drake up, and it's going to be pretty much completely free for Peculiar Gaming once again.
Yeah, I think one of the major hindrances in that team fight was a lack of vision, because in fact the catalyst for that team fight was Inspiro trying to clear some of those wards, like he's doing again now. They didn't have that vision, and as you said, you want Alunir to be using the ultimate offensively, but meanwhile mid we do have Grolem. However, the Lancing goes down, great saver of lives, and we'll be keeping him alive once again. But yeah, he wants to be using that ultimate offensively, but if he really can't locate that back line, he might just find himself in the middle of Jarvan and Zac, who will just keep him pinned down, and it will be a wasted ultimate. Then there's no front line, and there's no one really to protect Mazarin and NBS lol as they try to do some damage. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. However, meanwhile, but we do have Deadly Buddha just completely whiffing that ultimate, and he can only feel that Jaywild's just going to destroy him. No damage going down at all, and it's just completely obliterated.
Kind of feel sorry for Varus. There's not too much he can do right now. He's being forced to play kind of unorthodox positions because he's trying to catch up on farm. Zac will be jumping in there. In the meantime, Grolem with the slingshot, not able to really land anything, just pretty much pushing them away from the tower, which is still pretty healthy at this stage of the game. Meanwhile, Jarvan is going to be going in. Ace in the Hole is being fired across. Cataclysm, nicely done there onto Thresh. Box has been popped out there, but by the time the Cataclysm clears, the box will also be gone, and Caitlyn will pick up that free kill. Meanwhile, the mid lane will be pushing, and Baron is very much open and available for Peculiar Gaming. They should take this one completely for free. It's a 4v5, and they're way stronger. 11,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, Amazing a little bit out of mana. He will be tanking out Jaymal just around the corner as well, looking to maybe assassinate one of those carries. Popping over the water around to Master, move all goes down into all the AoE ultimates. When it comes down, Onslaught of Shadows onto Baron, however, has been secured by Jarvan. Legendary Jaymal now moving on to Master as well, popping the Zhonya's, keeping himself alive. Deadly but just caught in the middle of that team fight with the rest of the team just collapsing down on top of him. There's the double kill for Zac, and the GG has been called by MBS Law, and there's a surrender vote as well, bringing that to a 2-0 for Peculiar Gaming, and that will be them taking the series.
Yeah, that definitely felt like the last stand there for GamingGear on the Baron. Had Hecarim managed to pull off the Smite Steal, who knows, maybe they could have clawed their way back, but they were so far behind that the Baron additionally, and the 4-man, in fact it was basically a delayed ace because Thresh went down before that, but it was just too much. It was curtains. It spelled doom for GamingGear, surrender. And you have to say, Pulse, a very convincing victory from Peculiar Gaming. Both games were pretty much face rolls.
Yeah, they just really couldn't do too much. It was just, they went for those AoE compositions and they were never really able to utilize it. And we saw that fight at Drake early on in that game where they wanted to use it, but it was just great mechanical play from Peculiar, just keeping themselves separated so that they couldn't just get pinned down by those AoE ultimates. And then everything was basically negated. They could never really use the composition that they wanted to use, go for those team fights and just dominate them in the way that they wanted. But as we said, Peculiar will be taking that to a 2-0. We will now be moving on to the next matchup. I believe we're still going to be casting the next game. I've been Pulse, that guy has been Metas, and we will see you soon.